What's up, my friends? Let me kick things off with a confession. So, I have never ever been this excited for a video because in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my number one idol, Virat Kohli, and how he's had the biggest influence on my adult life. I'll specifically be speaking about 10 of his principles that have completely changed my life and how these principles have the potential to change your life as well. These principles are universal in nature, which means that regardless of whether you're a cricket fan or not, a Virat Kohli lover or hater, regardless of what your age is, regardless of what your profession is, you can seek inspiration from these principles and put them to excellent use in your life. I've always closely followed Virat Kohli, the cricketer, but it was only in late 2016, early 2017 that I started following Virat Kohli, the person, very closely as well. And this was the time when I felt very disillusioned with life. I was not enjoying my first role at Goldman Sachs in New York. I was getting way too carried away during the weekends, blowing all my money on alcohol, marijuana, cigarettes. I weighed about 90 kilos as well. And honestly, it was the power of Virat's example that actually got me back on track. And since then, it's been a beautiful love story. I've watched every single interview of Virat Kohli. I proudly don my Virat Kohli jersey. And recently, I've been proudly donning my Virat Kohli beard as well. One of the biggest reasons I chose to date the girl that I was dating about a couple of years ago was because her initials were VK. I've also made very foolhardy public pledges in the past in the name of Virat Kohli. If a girl ever tells me that I bear even an iota of semblance to Virat Kohli in some way, shape or form, I'll marry her right then and there. I don't care if people call me a Virat Kohli wannabe. I honestly look at that as a supreme compliment. In fact, I often joke that I was an atheist until I learnt about Virat Kohli. Anyway, enough with the foreplay. अब भैंचोद शुरू करे. यार विराट कोहली के ऊपर वीडियो है, एमसीबीसी तो थोड़ी बनती है. Point number 1, time and time again Virat Kohli has claimed that if I work 120% every single day, I am answerable to no one. Here are a couple of clips of Virat Kohli saying that.
A routine on a daily basis where you are giving your 120% and you are answerable to no one.
While short on words, this line is very long on wisdom. And to maximize clarity, let me divide this line into two parts. So the first part is, if I work 120% every day. Now, what exactly does Kohli mean by that? What he means is that Kohli takes it one day at a time. He focuses on winning the day's battle because he knows that winning each day's battle has a tremendously compounding effect, which ultimately culminates in you winning the war. You know, Gary Neville says something similar where he says, attack the day. Now, what does 120% mean? 120% pretty much means that you are putting your best foot forward every single day and doing whatever is within your control to the best of your ability. So in other words, you are controlling the controllables. Now your 120% today might differ from what your 120% tomorrow is, only because the set of constraints that you're actually facing today might be very different compared to the set of constraints that you're facing tomorrow. But given the set of constraints that you're facing on any given day, your goal is to maximize your output. Now, how do you know if you've given it your 120%? Trust me, you will know when you've actually given it your all and when you've actually left some fuel unused in the tank. Even if you try fooling yourself, your conscience will prick you. Now, let's move on to the second part of this quote, which is, I am answerable to no one. Now, you know, as captain of the Indian cricket team, as the best batsman in the world, Virat Kohli constantly comes under the scanner. He has the weight of expectations of 1.3 billion Indians, not to mention other fans around the globe as well, who are dissecting every single move of his. You know, as they say, kuch to log kahenge, लोगों का काम है कहना. And if Kohli actually started paying attention to all the external noise, he'd drive himself absolutely insane. Having said that, Kohli still has a responsibility to deliver for the country. But instead of actually listening to the general public that can be very fickle, you know, lauding you as a hero one day and then completely disparaging you as a zero the very next day, Kohli knows that the best that he can do is give it his very best every single day. And even if things don't work out today, he can seek a lot of solace and comfort from the fact that he's giving it everything that he's got, and it's only a matter of time before things work out or before he finds form again. You know, it's only when you're half-assing your actions do you actually feel guilty and you're answerable for your actions or the lack thereof. Point number 2 is Kohli's unwavering, unflinching, indefatigable self-belief through thick and thin. Look, hard work is certainly a very necessary ingredient, but it doesn't go all that well without self-belief. You know, think of a hot air balloon. Hard work is like the fuel or the propane, but you need some sort of spark to light that propane, which in turn will lift the hot air balloon. And self-belief is that spark. And this self-belief that I'm talking about comes in especially handy when you find yourself in a hole or in a precarious situation, in a predicament. It's this self-belief that actually helps you dig yourself out of the hole. It's this self-belief that makes you persist. You know, they say the cowards never started and the weak died along the way. It's the ones who have immense belief in their abilities who continue to march forward. From a fairly early age, I've known that I've had the talent, I've had the work ethic, but what I've lacked has been self-belief, or my self-belief has been extremely fickle. But over the past few years, I've actually made a very concerted effort to prop up my self-belief, and I haven't done so by using any magic formula. I've literally repeatedly told myself that Anubhav, you have it in you, and slowly but surely, I actually started internalizing that. So my self-belief has actually been like a muscle that I've very deliberately trained over the years instead of letting it atrophy. And you know, using such an affirmation, such as Anubhav, you do have it within you, can actually make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the reason I say that is because even if you don't truly believe that you have it in you, but if you tell yourself that I do have it in me, then you sometimes end up going for it when your former, more hesitant self would probably have backed off. And if you do end up achieving something or hitting a milestone in the process of going for it, you then start to wonder, maybe I do have it in me. And that then gives you the courage to go for steeper challenges. So that's how the virtuous cycle works. My enhanced self-belief has also made me a lot less neurotic. You know, earlier, whenever things wouldn't quite work out favorably, I would be very quick to point the finger at myself. I would say, it's because I lack what it takes. I don't quite have the merit. But now, I'm like, maybe there are other factors at play as well. And so I'm not so quick to undermine my merit. I'll give you a very silly example, but one that's actually very true. So earlier, whenever a girl wouldn't be responsive, whenever she wouldn't reciprocate, I'd be like, you know, she's out of my league, let's not even bother, let's not even give it a shot. But now I'm like, if she isn't reciprocating, it's her loss. And maybe she's not approaching because she thinks that I am out of her league, so it would be futile on her part to even give it a shot. Point number 3 is you either win or you learn. This is such a liberating statement because it completely takes the pressure off you. It gives you the license to explore more, be curious, be experimentative. And even if things don't end up working out, you just end up learning so much in the process. You know, Ray Dalio beautifully summed this up when he said, the pain of failure should lead to reflection from which your wisdom derives. If you've studied Virat Kohli somewhat closely, you'll know that he's insanely optimistic, almost irrationally so. Even after the 36 all-out debacle that took place against Australia in the first test match recently, he came out in the post-match press conference talking about positives that India could take and talking about everything that needs to be rectified, as opposed to just feeling dejected and despondent and dropping his head and feeling as if the writing is on the wall. You either win or you learn has also increased my propensity to take calculated risks in my life. There's absolutely no way that I would have gone from an engineer to a Goldman Sachs investment banker to a sports presenter had it not been for this propensity. It's also changed me from an eternal pessimist to someone who's now much closer to the optimist side than to the pessimist side along the spectrum. And even if things don't end up working out, God forbid, I'd rather be an optimist who got it wrong, believing that it's going to work out, than a pessimist who got it right, believing that it's not going to work out. The next point is one of my favorites, which is Virat Kohli's policy to play fire with fire. You know, opposition players can mess with Virat Kohli, but only at their own peril, because Virat Kohli is the embodiment of the new Indian attitude, which is not to be submissive, but to be equipped with a healthy level of aggression, what they call controlled aggression. Compared to the young Virat Kohli, who you could say was a bit of a brat and would unnecessarily involve himself in these altercations, the more mature Virat Kohli knows exactly when to be zen and when to turn on that MCBC switch. Indian cricket teams of the past used to be very meek and docile and submissive, whereas today's Team India is cut from a different cloth. They don't bow down in front of the Australias and the South Africas and the Englands of the world. They show these teams what they're made up of, and that too in their own backyard. And the captain leads by example in this regard. I've got a very personal story to share. I had taped the following 2 pictures to my computer monitor during my time working in investment banking at Goldman Sachs' New York City headquarters. Whenever I used to feel down and out at work, this first image used to always end up lifting my spirits. It used to remind me to compete fiercely and to arm myself with a healthy level of arrogance and aggression that's needed in the high-octane investment banking environment. The second image of Kohli confronting an Australian batsman was symbolic of something even more personal. You know, during my 7 years in America, I always felt that Indians, so Indian Indians, not ABCDs, were a lot more gentle and docile and submissive compared to their American counterparts, much like the Indian cricket teams of the past. And that used to irk me a lot, only because during my time in America, I used to consider myself to be a very proud ambassador of India. And so instead of even being remotely submissive, I used to bend over backwards to make my Indian identity and my presence felt. It was almost as if I was operating with a chip on my shoulder in a bid to showcase what my countrymen were made up of. And this was especially true during my time in banking, only because in investment banking, Indians were a rare breed. And this image used to serve as motivation that I might be operating away from home, but I haven't just come here to play on the back foot or be defensive. I've come here to show intent, be aggressive, rise to the occasion, and leave my mark. Believe it or not, it was this video of Virat Kohli showing his tattoos that actually served as a mini epiphany for me about the finite nature of life.
I like ink, so I decided to get all of this on my arm. One life, I have to live it.
Now, you might be thinking that, YOLO or the one life live it up idea is one that every Tom, Dick and Harry talks about. But that same idea resonates with you a lot more when it's coming from a figure that you actually look up to. And Kohli applies this principle to the way he plays his cricket as well. Recognizing that professional cricketing careers last for 15 to 20 years at most, he's possessed by this insatiable desire to make each day count. When you understand the brevity of life and the inevitability of death, when you start confronting the reality of your own mortality, you too can be possessed by a desire to devote your energy to what truly matters and to make the most of this very short time that we have. It's insane how quickly the years go by. The days may be long, but the years are most certainly very short. That's a beautiful segue to the next point, which is that Kohli understands that life is way too short to take yourself too seriously. He takes his work very seriously, but doesn't take himself all that seriously. In fact, a lot of members of the Indian cricket team have claimed as well that although it might not appear that way, Kohli is actually one of the biggest pranksters in the Indian cricket team. Yuzi Chahal even calls him the silent killer because of the surreptitious manner in which Kohli goes about playing his pranks. I'm sure most of you have seen his Breakfast with Champions episode with Gaurav Kapoor, where you see his 100% raw, honest, open, original, authentic, humorous Dilli ka chokra self. Another very, very underrated chat of his is one that he had done with Sunil Chhetri during the lockdown. I watched it from start to finish and it left me in splits. I joked on Twitter recently that for the first 24 years of my life, my exercise plan entailed every single day being a rest day and my nutrition plan entailed every single day being a cheat day. And that daily grind of rest days and cheat days culminated in me hitting my record weight of 92 kilos in late 2016. I was in the mid 80s coming out of college, but all the drinking in New York and the New York pizzas and the New York bagels added a few more kilos and I started feeling horrible, not just physically, but also mentally. Late 2016 is when I came across this video of Virat Kohli in which he talks about how becoming fitter has had a tremendously positive influence on not just his physical shape, but also his mental fortitude.
Physically being active and healthy helps you think better, helps you make better decisions. It's not a thing that many people understand, but that's the fact. Why do we train just before we go to the game? Because it releases positive endorphins inside your body. It helps you think better. It helps you feel good about yourself. It helps you feel positive.
That gave me the courage to enter uncharted territory, i.e. the gym. And since then, I haven't looked back. I cannot tell you how tremendous an influence it's had on my physical and my mental makeup. The best habit that anyone can develop, according to me. By far, the activity that I look forward to the most every day. It's become like oxygen to me, which is why I feel so restless on rest days. And sometimes when I'm at the gym struggling to complete a set, I often tell myself, what would Virat do? And that's it. Us weight ki fir MCBC kar deta hu. Point number 8 is Kohli's knack of reframing problems or obstacles as opportunities. When he's chasing a stiff target of 350, instead of looking at that number as an insurmountable target, he looks at it as a healthy challenge or as an opportunity to contribute towards Team India's victory. And because of this very slight yet very significant shift in perspective, instead of actually feeling very stifled by the task at hand, he feels doubly motivated by the opportunity that this challenge presents. It's your interpretation of a situation that actually determines your reaction to it. As Shakespeare once said, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So the situation by itself isn't good or bad. These are labels that we assign to the situation. And so the same situation or the same circumstance can be viewed as bad or as an obstacle by one person, but it can be viewed as good or as an opportunity by another person. Point number 9 also has to do with pressure situations. Can you imagine the amount of pressure and the amount of scrutiny the man comes under both on and off the field? I can't. Even if he's having a very good year compared to others, the public will still rail at him because he's not having as good a year as he's had in the past. That's the price that he has to pay for the very high standards we've come to expect of him. Most would crumble under this kind of pressure, but Kohli, on the other hand, does not look at pressure as a burden. He treats pressure as a privilege. And that's because he considers himself to be extremely lucky and privileged, doing what he loves doing, leading a team of 11 players, representing a nation of 1.3 billion people. He understands that pressure is simply a byproduct of getting to live his dream on a daily basis, representing his nation in the sport that he dreamt of playing since he was a child. I feel a bit embarrassed making a comparison here because the pressure that I experience on my job as a TV presenter doesn't come remotely close to the pressure that he experiences. But whenever I feel like complaining about the pressure that I experience while presenting on live TV, I remind myself that there's so many others who would love to do the job that I'm doing, so many others who would love to be in my shoes. And this reminds me not to take things for granted, but to use that pressure as a healthy fuel as opposed to looking at it as a nuisance. Final point is that Kohli always places the team above personal milestones. He said that so many times in press conferences and interviews that he started to sound like a broken record. But by saying that over and over and over again, he's instilled the same mentality in the youngsters in the Indian cricket team as well. The objective should not be to play for personal glory, but to contribute towards Team India winning. And as long as they're doing that, the 50s and the 100s and the 5-wicket hauls will take care of themselves. That's also one of the reasons Kohli keeps saying that he'd rather score a 30 or a 40 that's contributed to Team India winning than a 100 in a losing cause. And this mentality has been helping me a lot recently as well. During my first attempt at YouTube, I was simply chasing the views and the subscribers and the likes. But now, instead of my number one question being, how can I get more views on this video? My number one question is, how can I provide value to the people watching this video? Because I know as long as I'm providing value, the views and the likes and the subscribers will take care of themselves. They'll be a byproduct of the value that I'm providing. Speaking of providing value, I'm hoping against all hope that this video did just that. And if and only if it did, then please do like this video and subscribe to my channel. Trust me when I say this, as a YouTuber who's still relatively small, every single like, comment, share, subscribe means the world to me. Let me know in the comment section if you feel galvanized and charged up after having watched this video. I wouldn't be surprised if you say you do. That's the infectious nature of the bottomless reserves of energy that Virat Kohli possesses. As Harsha Bhogle once beautifully put, if you plug Virat Kohli, you'll never have a power shortage in India. On that very powerful note, I'll take your leave. Until next time, take care, stay safe, keep smashing it, and cheers. We love Kohli, Virat Kohli. I just don't think you understand. He's MS Dhoni's man. He smashes Pakistan. We love Virat Kohli.